another phenomenal episode of Women In. I can't wait for you to meet my guest. But before you do, let me tell you what you're listening to. Women In is a podcast that celebrates women from all walks of life and the people who uplift them. Each episode features incredible voices from my world, sharing stories that spark inspiration, challenge the status quo, and remind us that empowering women empowers everyone. This is a bold, curious, and uncensored space where disruption is welcome, forward thinking is encouraged, and change is the goal. I'm passionate about breaking down barriers, not just for us, but for the next generation. Whether our paths cross through the Kalamazoo Wings, Mindfulness Elevated, Tony Will Coaching, or you're part of my family and friends circle, these conversations matter. Let's dive in and celebrate the power of connection, growth, and the people who are shaping our world. And this woman is one of those. Dr. Valerie Brooke has led many different lives before finally settling on the white coat and the stethoscope around her neck. She started out with a BA in English Literature from Providence St University in Oregon, where she first found her love of writing. She then had a decade-long career as a successful sports massage therapist with her clients including athletes from the Portland Trailblazers NBA team. She started medical school at Oregon Health and Sciences University in Portland at the age of 35 and was the oldest woman in her class, raising a daughter in high school. She completed her residency in her chosen specialty, physical medicine and rehabilitation, at the University of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania, where she learned how to care for patients with physical impairments and disabilities. She is married to a spirited man, Ronando, who makes her laugh while they experience many adventures, and has a grown daughter, Erinna. Did I pronounce that right, Valerie? Erinna, I'm glad I asked, living in Seattle. Dr. Brooke currently resides in Anchorage, Alaska with Ronando and their two cats, Bandit and Stryder. She works at Providence St. Elias Specialty Hospital. Elias, thank you. I'll never be a broadcaster, I can tell you that. Caring for patients who suffered strokes, brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, amputations, and accidental trauma that breaks patients' bones and spirits. She's passionate about creating a healthcare system that prevents burnout in its doctors, destigmatizes mental health and substance abuse disorders. She has been sober for 5 years and has recovered from crippling depression. In her spare time, she can be found reading, writing, creating art, spending time in the mountains of Alaska with Ronando, and building a community with like-minded sober souls like me. Hi. How are you? It's so good to see you.
I'm great. I was so looking forward to this. Thank you for asking me.
Of course. Yeah, you and I, well, I'm not going to spoil it. You tell everyone how we met.
Well, we met in Scottsdale, Arizona at the Zero Proof Experiences retreat. Mm-hmm. It had not been my first retreat, but it was the first time I was asked to do a presentation. And you happened to be the presentation behind me. And what I find so fun is that my presentation was on Brain Science 101. It was called a way to introduce stress, trauma, and healing to the layperson and try to explain how the brain works. I worked very hard, Tony, on this presentation with all my research and background, and I really dialed down this PowerPoint presentation. I had practiced it. And then the night before, I texted Peggy and said, "There's PowerPoint materials for this presentation, right?" And she said, "Nope." So, yes, well, I don't believe in accidents.
Yeah.
And I think it was the perfect thing to happen because I knew my material so well. And it also really ties into what I feel passionate about, which is telling stories that really makes the material that you're presenting real. And so what I ended up doing was really just telling the own story of my own life and my own trauma and how that really ties into what's happening in our brains and our bodies, and particularly how it led to my own mental health disorder and my depression and my substance abuse disorder. And so it ended up being perfect that there wasn't a PowerPoint presentation because I think it was a more authentic, and it kind of ties into, and we'll talk about this, about the book that I am rewriting to get published in terms of making it more real and tying it to someone's real story.
Yeah, the title of your session, I was like, I'm in. And you and I hadn't met yet at all, but I'm sure I told you this that day, but I'm obsessed with all things brain. with my mom's passing of Alzheimer's last February. So that was just 3 months after when you and I met. She died 3 months prior. And so, and the brain and how it connects to alcohol-free living for me. And it just was like, I have to listen to this woman. And it was great because you opened up the session the exact same way I was opening up mine, which is reading from your book. And I was like, this is so cool. And your writing is just phenomenal. So let's talk about this. You said you're rewriting the book?
Yeah, so I like I said in my bio, I started out my college career writing. I fell in love with the written word. I focused on poetry for a while. Like I am through and through a writer. I love words. And then later in life, after becoming a massage therapist and then switching gears and then going into medical school, I kind of lost a little bit of my time to do a lot of writing and reading. But one thing I did do when I was in medical school and residency is that I wrote a blog. And it was really my way of keeping my loved ones and friends and families in my inner circle of like, this is what's going on and this is what medical school is like and residency. And it was a very hard road for me, not because I was 35 and a woman, but just because it's very, very challenging in terms of how much you have to learn in such a short period of time and the sense of responsibility that you have for taking care of patients' lives. And all of this was stuff I did not know when I made the decision to go to medical school. I did not know anybody that was a doctor. I just kind of took the leap and thought, I think this is what I'm going to do next, which is kind of how I roll in my life. So I had written a book and a blog, and then in the years before the pandemic, I thought I really want to publish this because I want people to know what it's like on the inside. And so I wrote a book. It was 100,000 words or long or so. I had an editor. And what was most interesting is when the first editor I had said, you talk a little bit too much about alcohol and how much you're drinking wine and being really depressed. And I think maybe you should take those parts out because it takes away from your agency as a physician. So I took her advice and I went through my manuscript and I took out everything that basically talked about my depression and alcohol use. And then I sent it out to a bunch of publishers. I had gone to a workshop about how to get published. I picked, small publishing companies that had published similar like material. This was in 2019, and I didn't get a publisher. Multiple people didn't respond, and then multiple people said, yeah, this isn't we're not right for you, but good luck in your progress. And then the COVID hit. And I have never worked so hard. I mean, I thought residency and, working 30-hour shifts and stuff, but COVID was a whole different beast. And it was very, very traumatic for me. And I was burnt out, very depressed. I was actually suicidal. And I knew as a physician, and I was drinking more and more wine every day, I thought, alcohol's a depression. Like, I'm a doctor, I should know. So I stopped drinking because I was worried about my mental health and not wanting to be alive anymore. And I started my healing. And that was June 20th, June 15th in 2020. I had my last glass of wine. And then I started healing, and then I started rewriting my book. I got a new editor and a new book coach, and what she said was, this book is kind of flat. Like, what's the real story here? Mm. And the real story was my own descent into depression and substance abuse disorder. In medical students, actually, before they start medical school, are in better physical and mental health than their peers that end up going into other graduate studies. But by the second year of medical school, the statistics are not good. About a quarter of them are depressed. At least 15% of them already have a substance abuse disorder, and 11% have thought about suicide. Just the statistics really aren't very good because it's not tracked very well, but estimates are that one physician a day kills themselves in the United States. The reason why, it's like the silent epidemic, and the reason why is because there's stigma against mental health disorders and substance abuse disorders, but it's even more so in the healthcare profession. And the reason why is that we fear our inability to practice medicine. In our licensing and our credentialing for hospitals, we have to answer questions about a history of substance abuse and mental health disorders. It's getting better since the pandemic because there was a law passed called the Laura Breen Act that was passed by Joe Biden, or it passed by the House and the Senate and signed into law. There was a woman, Laura Breen, who was an ER physician in New York City, who killed herself during the pandemic, and her family recognized one of the reasons why she didn't get help is she was afraid to tell anybody that she was depressed because she wanted to help her patients. And so that's the thing that I feel so passionate about, is that we have to start talking about physicians are human. They have mental health disorders, they have substance abuse disorders, and then we work in a system where we don't get help because we're afraid that we're going to lose our ability to practice our craft. And so that's the thing that it's just what gets me up in the morning going to work, is that I am at the point where I am I am now 5 years sober, and it's nothing I'm ashamed of. And I am in the process. I'm about quarter through rewriting my book and putting the story of my own mental distress and use of alcohol back into the story, and then I'm gonna get it published.
This is so I love that this is what you're passionate about, and I connected on this for so many reasons. Not because I'm a doctor, not because I had depression, and not because not for the same reasons I'm getting at, but I have a lot of clients who are doctors, and the number one thing they struggle with is exactly what you're working on, and having a voice in this space. And because this is just my belief, and I'd love to hear your opinion. I'm going to be 5 years. We were talking off air about how much we have in common. It's crazy. You quit drinking 4 months before I did, and I will be 5 years on October 12th. And I know at that part of like 5 years is cool. It's a big deal. So, but I think part of the reason why I have found success is because I am loud and proud. I kicked anonymity to the curb. I believe in what Brene Brown shared with the world, which is in order to reduce the shame, you talk about it. And
Yes.
because other people are struggling too. And I feel like if I talk about it, they could say, oh, Tony's courageous enough, or Valerie's courageous enough. I can do this myself. So I just love that this is what the work you're doing. Now, are you finding that you're supported in this for your day job? Well, from being a doctor, is a hospital supportive? Are you running into any challenges?
Yes, great question. So first, let me say that I only recently came out as sober on my social media on my 5 year, and part of that honestly was my own internalized shame, which I actually, interestingly, have just the same amount of shame about being depressed and suicidal than I do about substance abuse. I definitely was, maybe some people call it a gray area drinker, but I drank every single day. Over the years, one glass of wine turned into two, turned into three, sometimes a bottle on the weekend. But I thought, well, it's really fine alcohol because I'm cutting it from Napa Valley, thinking that made it okay because it wasn't boxed wine. It was like expensive bottles of wine. So I only recently came out about my substance abuse disorder because of my own internalized shame. Mm-hmm. In terms of what's happening in my workplace, I have started coming out to staff, not to administration, but to staff members, because one thing that's also changed is that every single patient of mine, and there's a lot of them here in Alaska, that has a substance abuse or mental health disorder, I tell them that I understand. I ask them if they want to stop drinking or using drugs, and drugs wasn't my thing, just drinking. Alcohol is a drug, we know that, right? But non-alcoholic drugs. And I tell them, listen, I've been sober for 5 years and it's hard, but if you really, because they're usually with me a couple weeks, my patients, and a lot of them have had trauma from car accidents or accidents, gunshot wounds related to use of drugs and alcohol. And so I'm very upfront with my patients, which has given me a sense of freedom, but also a way to connect with my patients, because I say, I can give you resources and it's okay. You are still a good human being, even though you have this addiction. It's not your fault. It's your responsibility, as Laura McCown would say, right? So I can't say that my administration knows. A lot of the staff know, the therapists I work with and the other physicians I work with, because I'm very open with them about it. When I was rewriting my book, I actually got a lawyer because I wanted to find out what are the legal repercussions. Like, say I publish this book, that the title is going to be Dr. Unwell, and what if my administration or the board of Alaska, or they look at it and say, oh, this doctor is being honest about her history. It's not current, her history. And this lawyer said to me, oh, you can't publish this. You can't publish this. And I said, well, I never went to inpatient care for mental health or substance abuse disorder. I never went to work drunk. I never harmed a patient. And he said, well, the thing is, somebody could look back and say, well, my loved one died while you were under their care, and now you've come out with this, that something could happen. He said, you should publish it anonymously. And I sat on that for a while and I thought, that defeats the whole purpose, Tony.
Yeah.
The whole purpose is to be honest and to use my name. I'm not going to publish anonymously. So I feel fortunately that I'm at the point in my life, and my husband is so supportive, that what is the worst thing that can happen? I publish this book and the board of Alaska says, oh, you used to have a drinking problem. We're going to monitor you. Great. Give me a breathalyzer every day. Check my blood. Or a patient or caregivers or the hospital administration says, oh, you used to have this problem. We're going to keep a close eye on you. Great. Like, I'm ready. And you know what? I have reinvented myself so many times in my life that if somehow I couldn't stay in medicine because I'm being honest about where I was 5 years ago, I'll find something else to do.
Yep.
Right? I have other skills.
Yep. I mean, that's the fear, right? I mean, my book's coming out in Q1 and I open up with my arrest, and I'm like, well, I mean, if I'm writing a book, I'm going to be as authentic, and I'm going to be Tony Will. So, am I setting my career on fire? I don't know, but I'm going to do it. And I've talked about it so publicly that I'm like, and the other thing too is not everyone's going to read my book. Like, people are,
Yes.
Tony write a book. They're not clamoring to get it. I'd love them to, but in the same sense, I'm humble enough to
They
know.
might. They might. You just hit 500,000 views on your TEDx, right? So
They might.
they might.
They might. But regardless, they're going to get the real me. And you open your book in a really powerful way too.
Oh, I forgot. And thank you for that reminder. I forgot that I had read the first chapter of my book, which, talked about a very traumatic event involving a gunshot wound, a patient that I'd had who'd killed himself with a gun, and tied into my own depression and thought about shooting my own self, and how that sort of brought me back over the edge. I think the story needs to be told. I think doctors need to be humanized, and that's not to give us a pass. Mm-mm. And I know that the laws are in place because we definitely want our physicians to be well and in the right frame of mind when we're caring for patients, but we're really no different than anyone else.
No, you're not. And I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, but Alaska is known for a higher use of alcohol disorder, substance use disorder. That correct?
Yes. And this is something I'm just getting involved in because I just moved here a year and a half. And I'd have to say there's more trauma and drug and alcohol use here than any place. I trained in Pittsburgh, which is a big city. I trained also in Oregon. So it's not like there probably isn't a city that doesn't have substance abuse and trauma and gang violence. But this is way more than I expected. A lot of it has to do with the weather. It's very dark. There's a lot of poverty here. There's a lot of housing insecurity, and there's a native population, which I'm just learning about, that live in small little villages, that there's nothing there's not a lot to do. You know, and I've asked, I remember taking care of a native patient who had had a stroke from using meth, and I was talking to him about, did he want to stop using meth? And I asked him, because I was curious, you know, why do you use it? He said, because I'm bored.
Yeah.
So, and fentanyl too is the other drug right now that's very big. There's a lot of fentanyl use, and it's of course laced with other things. So there's a lot that I'm still learning about Alaska. But I know the part that I feel, the difference that I feel like I make, I'm not going to fix this big system, but I feel the impact that I can make is to tell my story, to not be ashamed about it, and to tell my patients and the caregivers that I work with that this is where I've come from and this is where I am today. And if you want help, I'm here to talk about it. I remember I had a Peggy Cooney, who you've interviewed, her This Side of Alcohol. I remember I had a sticker on my water bottle that said This Side of Alcohol. In the last hospital that I was working at in Reno, there was a therapist who came up to me and said, "Hey, I was wondering about this sticker you have on your water bottle." And I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm in this group, and, you know, I had a drinking problem, but now I've been sober for a couple years." And she was like, "You know, don't tell anyone, but I think I have a drinking problem too." And so that's the difference that I want to make, is I want other people to know that it's okay and you can heal from it if you want, and there's resources. And I want to be that. I want to be out about it and no longer hide it. I'm tired of hiding.
Exactly. That's how I felt when I quit drinking in 2016 the first time, and then was sober for 15 months, and then went back out for 3 more years. The first time I did it through AA, and not that I dislike the AA community. I don't like the framework. I like the community part. But I had a lot of shame, and you know, and I had a lot to learn because I didn't know a lot about that world. But I was like, this does not feel like me. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to be bold about it. I'm going to talk about it, even though it's uncomfortable. So do you have any tips? Like, what would you say? Because I think a lot of it's personality driven, but I get asked this question a lot. So I'm curious to know how you would answer it. Like, where does that confidence come from? Or what tips can you provide someone who so desperately wants to be where we are with this, which is talking about it out loud and really just leaning into the fear?
Well, you know, something that I always do, and we learn about this in med school, is, you know, where you are, and I'm sure in your, maybe in your coaching that you come about this, is meet the patient, meet whoever it is you're talking to where they're at. Like, where are you on the the change wheel? Are you thinking about it? Are you committed to it? Do you have questions about it? And that's why every time I meet somebody, whether it's a coworker or a patient, I always just start with, what do you want? Do you want to not use meth anymore? Do you want to stop drinking? And then oftentimes they say no.
Yeah.
And so then I just are like, okay. And I usually followed up with, well, if you ever think more about it, you're going to be with us at the rehab hospital for a couple of weeks, let me know. I'm happy to talk to you about it. And then if they are interested, I just kind of ask them to tell me more. Mm-hmm. Tell me more. Because that's the thing that I love about being a doctor, is I love people's stories. Mm-hmm. And I always want people to feel like that they are more than their disease, that they are more than whatever the diagnosis is that brought them to my hospital bed, that they're more than that. And I feel the same way of when people have substance abuse and mental health disorders, is that there's a story behind it. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I'm not a licensed counselor, but I am a good listener. And whatever you want to share with me, you know, it's part of the Hippocratic Oath that I take the things that my patients share with me and that I hold them. And I really do. So I guess what I want to say is I don't feel like I have the answers for anyone other than myself. What I do have is the ability to just ask somebody, where are you at? What do you like? What's important to you? And then to give someone resources that kind of fits in with what works for them. A lot of my patients, they don't have technology. You know, they live in dry cabins with no electricity and sustenance. They hunt and fish as a way to feed themselves. And so for me to say, hop on the Luckiest Club Zoom meeting is just not reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And what it also is, what you're saying too, or what I'm hearing is you're not judging at all. You're
No.
no judgment. And that makes, because you get it, you understand. And that is a huge part of this. Like, I think we assume people are going to judge us. And listen, we do. I mean, we're human nature. But most people, when they see someone like me or you saying, "Yeah, I don't drink, and here's why," however we frame that, they're like, "That's pretty badass," because it is.
It is. We are. We're
Yeah,
badass.
we're badasses. Okay, I need
You
to
know,
know. I
yeah.
moving to Alaska, and you've been there a year and a half now. How was that transition? Was that hard to move up to Alaska? Do you love it? Are you like I'm interested to know. You're my first podcast guest from Alaska, um,
Yeah.
and I've been to Alaska. It is beautiful, but I want to know for you, like actually moving there, and
Yeah.
what it's like.
Yeah. Thanks for asking me that. And I have lived in multiple different places. In fact, I'm I'm giving a presentation next week for a community I'm in called the Ray of Light community. It's a creative community started by a sober woman, and the month of our theme for the month of August is inspiration, and multiple different women in the community were asked to give a presentation. And I was kind of shocked. They asked me, would you give a presentation? I'm like, me? Like, me? Why me? And they're like, because you moved to Alaska. Like, that is so inspiring.
It is.
And so it's been fascinating to look at my life and see all the times that I've made these pretty radical life decisions. Like, I moved from Vermont to Portland, Oregon when I was 20 years old, didn't know a soul there. I just like, I'm going to do this. I went to, medical school when I was 35 years ago. It was a decision like, I'm going to go to medical school. I think what's different about those decisions I've made in the past that were massive changes in my life is that I was running away from something. This is the first time I've made a decision sober where I wasn't running away from something, I was going to something. And I interviewed at multiple, I wasn't loving my last place of employment. It was very hot there. My husband was unhappy because of the climate in Reno, Nevada, worried about, just the warming climate and wanting to go more north. And my daughter lives in Seattle and thought, well, so I looked at jobs in Oregon and Washington. And then a friend of mine said, have you thought about Alaska? And I was like, no. And so I just kind of came up, and I knew, Tony, as literally the moment I got off the plane and walked out of the airport and looked around, I knew that Alaska was my place.
That's so
And I have lived in 8 different states, 18 different homes, and this is the first time I felt like this is my place.
That's awesome.
It's my place. I'm a mountain girl. I'm not an ocean girl. I'm a mountain girl. And every day, sometimes I get teary-eyed because I drive to work and I see the Chugach Mountains, and every day they look different because of the sunrise, the sunset, and it's like right there.
Yeah, it
So
is beautiful in Alaska. I went, the last time I was there was 2001. Okay, almost 25 years ago, but it was stunning. I think it's so cool to like pick up and move there. I think again, that's badass. And so we get on the call, and you're 4 hours behind me, I believe. And you've got your puffer vest on. I'm like, tell me the temperature. And it was like 48 degrees. And it's August. This won't come out till in October, but it was,
yeah,
I'm like, and that's normal for this time of year.
yes, it's normal. They say, everybody's kind of bummed because the light is decreasing. There's still a lot of light every day. I've got my blackout curtains, but so far, I mean, I've only been here for a year and a half, and last winter apparently was not a normal winter. There wasn't a lot of snow. But I like the pace of life here. Alaskans are fiercely independent. Like to being told what to do, but also very kind and giving. And there's not a lot of people here, which I like, but really it's the mountains. It is so quiet in the morning when I sit out on my porch and have my morning cup of coffee. I can't hear anything but the sandhill cranes and the birds overhead. And there's bald eagles and there's moose that walk down my street. I haven't seen a bear yet. I'm
I
a
was
little
just gonna
nervous.
ask. Yeah.
there's bears here, and there's actually 2 bear attacks in the last month within the city limits. So I'm a little nervous about hiking by myself. But as long as you go to a place where there's lots of people and you make a lot of noise, bears really don't want to have anything to do with humans.
Yeah.
It is really the last frontier, and I'm still just exploring it. I'm excited. Next year, I'm going down to 3/4 time, which I'm so excited about at work.
Good for you.
So that I can explore more. And I already am planning on what vacation I'm going to do in Alaska.
That is so cool. I want to visit, talk about your career in medicine. And as you've stated in your bio and a couple of times as we've been talking, 35 years old, decide to go to medical school. I mean, that is another badass thing you chose to do. So tell me, the listeners, your story in that. And I also want to know the woman side of this, being a female resident at 35 years old, the oldest, I would imagine, in your cohort. What was that like, and what has your experience been as a female physician?
Yeah, thanks for asking. And yeah, so I made the decision. I was doing massage. My husband and I had a very successful massage therapy practice in Portland, and it was really just starting to be hard on my body physically. Women don't tend to last in massage as long as men because it's physical labor. And I remember exactly where we were, running across this freeway bridge in downtown Portland. And I said, I'm not going to be able to do this for a long time. I should probably do something else. But I really like taking care of people. I said, well, maybe I'll do something I don't know, maybe I'll be a nurse. And he just said, well, if you're going to go back to school, you're super smart. Just why don't you be a doctor? And I was like, that's a great idea. So I went home that day, and I was an English literature major. So I just went home that day and was like, prerequisites for medical school. And I just started taking science, post-bac science classes. And then my daughter was in middle school at the time. I thought, when would be the best time to go to med school? I researched schools that I was what's called a non-traditional student. So an older student who did not just study science, because I had a liberal arts background. And believe it or not, there's actually some studies that show that students who actually have a liberal arts background tend to have better bedside manners. But it's definitely not the norm. Most people who go into medicine just kind of go right through school, very science heavy. But I learned the science that I needed, the minimum requirements, and then I picked schools that took older students that tend to have biopsychosocial models. And I applied to like 7 schools and interviewed at 4, and then was accepted to 2. One was in University of Rochester, New York, and then was accepted at my local school, which was great because I didn't really want to move my daughter. Mm-hmm. So I timed it so that I started medical school when she started high school. So I wasn't the oldest person in the room. There were 2 gentlemen that had previous careers. One was a pharmacist, and I think the other one was an engineer who had changed tracks, but I was definitely the older woman. I struggled definitely with the book part of it, because it's not that I don't know how to study, but to go from working a full-time job, my husband and I had 2 businesses that we ran together, to go from that to studying like 8 to 12 hours a day was a difficult transition for me. And that's part of when my alcohol use started increasing. It's like, when can I have that first glass of wine and not destroy my studying in the evening and nighttime? Where things really turned around is when I got to the clinical rotations, because I had given birth and worked jobs, like going to work super early in the morning and interacting with patients and other caregivers in the hospital setting. That was very easy for me. It's interesting you ask about the women part now. Right now, today, I just looked this up recently, 56, is it 56? In 2023, 54.6% of women in doctors are females.
Interesting.
And in medical school. And it really changed in 2019, where there's more women going into medicine than men. But what happens is that women leave medicine more often than men because of families. Yeah. Wanting to have children, being the primary caregiver, and or wanting to not work full time,
Yeah.
right? To have that home work-life balance is tricky in medicine. Even me now deciding I want, fortunately, the hospital system up here isn't, there's such a shortage of physicians in Alaska that you tell them I just want to work 2 weeks a month, they're like, great. You want to work 1 week a month? Great, because they're in so a desire. But in other places, like I had wanted to work part-time in my last job in Reno, and they're like, yeah, no.
No. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so let me ask you this. It's such a cool story. Is this part of your book? Like, do you write, this is
Yes,
part of it? Okay. Because it's super inspirational. And your daughter now is, how old is she?
she's 32.
Okay. So you've been a physician now. So how many years have you officially been practicing medicine?
2000, 2015 is when I started as an attending physician. So it's been 10 years.
10 years. And is it everything that you dreamed it would be when you set foot into this at 35 years old?
Well, yes and no. I think it's an incredible privilege and gift to take care of patients. And that's the part of the day that I love the most. But, our healthcare system is not great. And there's a lot of time spent on a computer documenting what I'm doing in order to make the insurance companies happy. And, fighting with the insurance companies over getting the care that patients need. That's the part of medicine that I didn't know about. And that's often the part when people think about going to medicine that they're discouraged. And a lot of physicians, women and men who are near the end of their careers, are retiring early because of the documentation burden and because of all the burnout that happened during COVID.
Yeah.
19, you definitely have to have a heart to be in medicine, I think, because you got to love the work in order to do all the stuff that you don't love. I mean, I spent hours and hours a day on a computer.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I hear from my clients that are MDs. It is just the documentation is crushing.
I'm hoping AI actually will help that. We're actually going to be piloting soon some AI to help minimize the time we spend documenting.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hearing a lot of good things about that.
Yeah,
So that is a positive coming, hopefully. Well, AI's everywhere. So it's coming.
it is.
So
Embrace it.
yeah, embrace it. So I want to know, Valerie, who are the women in your life that helped shaped you into the woman that you are now?
Oh, thanks. That's such a great question. I have had so many women that have helped shape me. I think I'm fortunate that I've had multiple mothers. And what I mean by that is that I was adopted. So my adopted mother took care of me until I went off to college. I met my birth mother when I was older after I gave birth to my own daughter. I got curious and thought I want to find out where I came from. And she and I were like two peas in a pod. We were both massage therapists.
Really?
We had the same books on our bookshelf. It was quite odd. And so we had a lovely time getting to know each other. And she actually died of cancer. And now I'm very close to my stepmom. Because my dad, my adopted dad got remarried. And so, and my dad is deceased now, but I'm very close to my stepmom. So I feel very fortunate that I've had three mothers in my life. But I've had so many inspirational women that have helped me get to where I am today. I had a English literature professor, my poetry teacher, Nancy Esposito. She was the first woman that really sort of helped me find confidence in my words and my ability to be a writer. I had a Native American spirituality teacher, Jackie Livingstone, who was crucial in helping me heal and find my power as a woman. And the practices that I learned while training with her for a couple years are still part of my everyday life. Nowadays, I'd say the women in my life are the amazing women I've met in the sober communities. through the Luckiest Club and through Zero Proof Experiences. I have a very dear friend, Maureen, who's a sober physician who lives part-time in Alaska. I have Peggy Cooney and other sober writers. I'm in a writers group. In fact, I have a regular group of women that we meet via Zoom every Saturday morning. We're all writers, and we have retreats. We have a retreat coming up in Tennessee this year, and we've been meeting for 3.5 years now. And then I have a group of sober healthcare workers that we've been meeting every Sunday for 4 years on Zoom, and we have retreats. And we have a retreat in Michigan coming up next year.
Oh, where are you going to Michigan?
Traverse City.
Yeah, it's about 3.5 hours from me. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, what a great sphere of amazing women and, men too, right? But I like to lift women up and, because I'm a big fan of men. I've been married to 3 of them. So, you know, I don't want to bash them, but where this all stemmed from was when I was at a conference and I was speaking at it, and one of the questions was, "Who are the women that mentored you?" And I sat there and I'm like, I didn't have any. It was all men, and so I thought,
Yes.
I want to do some work here. I want to mentor other women. I want to help create a community, especially in sports, my day job, because
Yes.
it's so male
Yes.
dominated, and so that's what I've been doing, and it's
Yeah, and
fulfilling.
thank you for that reminder, because that's the one thing I say that has been missing in my work environment is that it's very, up until this most recent job, it's been very male dominated in terms of my colleagues as well as the leadership. It's different where I'm at now. Like all of the C-suite, the chiefs of our current hospital system are all women except for one man. And that's so inspiring to me. In fact, it's made me think that maybe I'm ready to put my toes back into some of the leadership. I did some leadership in my last job, but it easily pushed me towards burnout because I had a full clinical load of patients in addition to all the administrative of being the medical director. But I've been asked to be the medical director next year when my contract comes up here, and I'm ready to go back into that role, in part because of the women that are running this hospital are kick ass.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love hearing that. And I have no doubt you're going to be successful as medical director because, like you said, look at your track record. Look at how many transitions. Look what you've tried on for size and done it and learned and stop doing things too, like drinking. So
Yes.
you will be.
But I want to be a mentor. I want to be a mentor, and every med student that comes through or resident, I am so honest with them. And I basically tell them my own story, and I want to mentor women that are coming up in medicine. And that's really one of the purposes of the book I want to publish is I want to give hope to other men and women, but particularly women who are deciding to go into the medical health field about what can happen and the things that you need to be put in place to not end up where I was. I had a medical student, I remember, in Reno who was, I remember just telling her a little bit about completing the stress response and the things that you needed to do in order to sort of discharge the fight or flight chemicals that are through our bodies every day because we're dealing with these traumatic situations. And I will be happy if this is all I get in terms of my ability to make a difference in someone's life. But I remember the following day she came in, she said, Dr. Brooke, I really have to thank you for talking to me about this because I went home after our long day yesterday and I had all these things to do, these applications, and I have an exam coming up, and I just was feeling so overwhelmed. And she thought, you know what? I think I'll just go for a short little jog or a little run. And so she said she went for a run, and even though it took like 40 minutes out of her evening, she came back and she was able to really get done what she needed to get done. And I thought, that's it. That's what I want to do, is to pass on that information about, and I didn't have these tools, Tony. I didn't have the tools of like go for a 5-minute walk instead of pouring a glass of wine. Like the
Exactly.
things that I was doing to try to manage the secondary trauma and stress of being a physician, and nobody was guiding us. Nobody was saying, I think it's changing. I will say I did a mind body medicine course through Harvard, and they're just rolling out a new program for their medical students about how to introduce strategies to avoid burnout in terms of, and letting the students choose whether yoga, meditation, exercise, creativity, things that you can do, we know, to regulate our immune system. So I think it's changing slowly. Yeah. And that's sort of my future goal, is that the sort of older generation of physicians and educators who believe, work 100 hours a week, stop complaining, that they're going to move on, and that the new generations of physicians that come up have more balance and recognize that in order to keep us well, like we need to be well so that we can take care of you.
Exactly. 100%. I talked to my, working in sports and entertainment, totally different, obviously, kind of the opposite end of what you're doing. You're saving lives, we're entertaining them. And our work hours are crazy. And so I work with my team. We do a 1-year vision worksheet every year. And then we connect it to their own personal goals, professionally and personally, because I want to help them bring the whole person to work and be balanced and not check it at the door, or all these old school stuff, thought, frameworks and thought process. And, they're happier at work, the retention is better, and we actually have fun with what we do. And it makes a huge difference. So, okay, we have 2 other things in common, and then we'll come to the end of this, but I have to mention them. Orange Theory.
Yes.
We both work out there. Or actually, because of my injury that I have now, I was coming up on my 800th class, but I'm going to bow out for a time period and ride a Peloton. So then you've had the Peloton, and now you've just completed 100 classes at Orange Theory. So I wanted to give you a shout out for that, because we both love Orange Theory.
Yes. And it is so much more than the workout.
It is.
I mean, I've always been an athlete ever since I was a teenager. And other than the years of training where there wasn't, or training to be a doctor where there wasn't time, or I didn't make time to exercise. So I love moving my body. But it's so much more than the workout. It's community.
It is.
Like, when I don't go for a couple days and then I show up at the regular Alaska, people are like, "Where have you been, Valerie?" And I was like, "Oh, I was here or there, or I was up, off traveling or whatever." And we cheer each other on. And I love it too, because there's every age.
It is.
Every body type.
Yep.
Like, it is not, and I've done a lot of different physical activities. I've done Ashtanga yoga, I've done CrossFit, I've done gyms, Peloton, and what I love about Orange Theory is it's not the like perfect bodies that are like showing off.
Exactly.
People just show up with wherever they are that day, and we all support each other, and I'm hooked.
Yeah, that's how
Again, and it's not the workout. I mean, I love the workouts too, but it's really more for the community of people. And so I see myself doing Orange Theory for as long as I possibly can.
Yeah, that was so cool. Yeah, and you did triathlons too.
Well, yeah, that was the other thing. It's interesting. It was kind of like my med school decision. One day I was like, I think I want to do a triathlon.
That's fun.
And I was in my 40s. So I didn't know how to swim. I mean, I knew how to swim. Like, I took swimming lessons as a child, but like, I didn't know how to swim. But I was a runner because I did cross-country running and track and field hockey, and I could bike, but like, there's a lot more than just pedaling, right? Yep. So I just, like med school, I just made a decision. I bought a book it was when I first moved to Reno. I bought a book on triathlete training, and I was like, I downloaded an app that basically said to do a sprint, and I just did what it told me to do every day. But then I got hooked, and I was like, then I bought the triathlon Bible, and I got a swimming coach, and like, I went all in. And then my last triathlon was in 2019, and I had an injury, so the next one I had signed up for I couldn't do because I was injured. And then COVID happened and the local ones shut down. So I haven't been back to it. Who knows? Maybe I'll go back to it. But like, yeah, I like pushing my body actually.
Same. Yeah.
What about you?
So I did from in my all in my 30s, like from age 29 to 39, I did over 60 races of all four distances: sprint, Olympic. I did 5 halves and then 2 full Ironmans. And my last full Ironman was in 2017 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Took me 15 hours and 20 minutes, and I was like, and I mean, it was hard. It was 100-degree heat, and just but when I crossed the finish line, I knew like I got out of the sport what I wanted to. And I was turning 40 the following year, and I thought, what a great way to start a different decade. So yeah, I haven't been back since, but I still have my racing bike. It's hanging up in the garage. I just can't bring myself to sell it. It means a lot after training as much as I did on it.
Yeah.
And so I liked working out like a normal person. So
Yeah, and something I've realized too, and I just turned 55, so I've realized, okay, I might feel like I'm 35 on the inside in terms of pushing my body, but something that's really changed for me is I no longer feel like I need to achieve anything more. And so if I never do another triathlon, that's fine. So I never got to the Ironman, that's okay.
yeah.
Like I will be okay if that never happens, because there's so many other things I want to experience in life with how much time I have left. And I'd be like, yeah, I did triathlons for a while. I'm doing Orange Theory now.
And those are hard. I mean, regardless of the distance, Orange Theory workouts are no joke, but you can make it as hard as you want. So,
Yes, agreed.
all right, we could keep going, but we got to wrap it up. So, if people want to connect with you, Valerie, where can they find you? And if they want to buy your
Sure.
book, when are you thinking it's going to be?
That's a really good question. And maybe offline, I'll pick your brain. I have multiple friends that have published, but maybe I'll pick your brain since my first round at publishing. I'm hoping to get it completed by next April. So, and rewriting is definitely easier than writing it from scratch, but that's my goal is next April. So I don't know yet when it's going to be published, but I'm very easy to get in contact with. I'm on LinkedIn. Substack is the place to go for the writing that I'm doing. I write every week or every other week about things that I'm experiencing practicing as a physician. My Substack is Dr. Valerie Brooke, Dr. Valerie Brooke. I'm on Instagram, Dr. Dr. VJ Brooke. You can also just honestly Google me and I'll come up. But LinkedIn, Instagram, Substack is the best way. And my email, which is Dr. spelled out Valerie Brooke at Gmail. Anybody can email me at any time too.
Fabulous. Well, thank you for coming on, and
Thank you for inviting
all the
me.
work you're doing, and I don't believe in coincidences either. We were meant to meet in
Agreed.
May, and I can't wait to when your book comes out, I'll have you come back on because we'll talk about that specifically.
Sounds great. And I want to, when's your book coming out?
This manuscript's going to be done next month in the next 30 days, and then I'm timing it up with my conference that I host here in Kalamazoo called Empower Her. So I'm hoping to publish, fingers crossed, March 6th. So that's the plan.
Yay, congratulations.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's I mean, it's like birthing a baby.
It is. Thank you so, so much, Tony, for everything that you do and all the avenues that you're involved in. You're very inspirational, and I feel really blessed that I got to meet you.
Yeah, same. Thank you. I am not hard to find either. If anyone wants to connect with me, you can find the hockey side of my life at kwings.com. Anything related to my coaching, the book, the podcast, TEDx is at tonywill.com. I'm only on 3 social media platforms. That's all I can handle. LinkedIn and Facebook at Tony Lentini Will, and Instagram at I'm Tony Will. And until next time.